Oromodie kò mọ àwòdì. Ìyá ẹ̀ ló mọ àṣà. What does that mean? Let me first of all translate, or shall I say translate will be the proper thing, because I need to bring the imagery to life for those of you who are non-speakers of the Yoruba language. Oromodie is probably like the day-old chick, that young little chick. That's the Oromodie, newly hatched chick. So the Yorubas are saying that the newly hatched chick has no way of recognizing the falcon in the eye or the kite, any one of those raptors in the skies that will pick up the chick. The newly hatched has no way of recognizing it. But they then said, Ìyá ẹ̀ ló máṣá, which means, but its mother knows the falcon, knows the eagle. The eagle is the one that is farther up, flies the highest of all the raptors. So ordinarily, you shouldn't see it, but because she has grown weary with years, with experience, she has become used to the fact that the raptors are far up in the skies, so she's constantly watching out for them. So if you take the translation literally, it is saying that the chick has no knowledge of the dangers that are overhead, but his mother is capable of identifying each and every one of them. The arguments begin, and the fools begins the argument. Oh, he's showing them, he's preparing them, it's our season, our look come. He's bringing the CBN to Lagos. Yes, he's back in Yoruba land. Yes, he's in the south. And then you would have the likes of Ndume. They come on there and they will tell you, we will show him that he cannot do such a thing. We are the ones who placed him in power, and he has to do our bidding. This is a plan to marginalize the North. And then, yabadabadibudabadaba, people will begin to pitch tents. All of a sudden, nobody is asking questions about all the stealings that went down in the CBN. Nobody is talking about the Naira change that became DAI. Nobody's talking about that anymore. We're talking about they are moving department of CBN to Lagos. How many of the keyboard warriors helping to shape these narratives have their friends, family ever recruited into CBN or married in the last 20 years? When did they ever advertise any job in CBN? The next thing you are hearing them telling you Alim Dume's daughter or somebody is working in CBN, and the department is being moved to Lagos. And then the fools and morons are busy arguing over the movement of the CBN. Who cares as long as they get the job done? How does that serve the interest of the victims? What changes? This is just another one of the many farcical gyrations. Does anybody realize that Emefiele's bail condition has now been varied to allow him to travel to go and treat himself? Who's talking about that? But yeah, they're moving the CBN to Lagos. That is what is exciting the plebs. They are moving the CBN to Lagos. And when you get bored discussing that, about the bit about the fan headquarters. Yeah. The same one that was moved by ministerial fiat to Abuja by the same originator of, is it Nigeria here or here Nigeria, Ethiopia Yawere, or which one? The same Adisirika moved a department that should be here, where the center of aviation is, moved it to Abuja. Me and you, how does that change the price of momo in the market for us? Every time they move it, all kind of monies are going to be shifting, and that me and you are going to pay for, our children will pay for, they've already taken the loan, they will share it again because they are moving. How does it change anything? Look, Bola Ahmed Tinubu created, I believe it was a total of 37 LCDAs during his tenure in office as governor of Lagos State. Olusegun Obasanjo, in a fit of hubris, without bothering to manage the information properly, allowed himself to be casted as the wicked person who did not want Lagos State to turn LCDAs into local government areas, everybody conveniently ignoring the fact that it is a fraudulent constitution that demands that without a fundamental amendment, no local government can be created, which incidentally dovetails with the fraud that just came out of the National Assembly saying that local government elections will now be conducted by INEC. Since when did local governments become part and parcel of the federal government to the point where the federal electoral body is the one that will be conducting election for local government in Fiditi, in Otukpo? How? Is it a unitary system? So instead of talking about that, they are busy debating fan headquarters. This is how they shape the narrative. Farcical gyrations, spiral. And it's such a horrible downward spiral that before you know what's going on, the country is unraveling as it's spiraling. The real issues are ignored, and we are given nonsense to talk about. Oh, should we talk about the weaponization of hatred? How about that one? How about that one? Should we talk about the weaponization of hatred? The ethnicization of crime? Should we talk about that one? The reality of the matter is that we've entered a situation where the government is more desirous of shaping false narratives rather than attending to the problems that are pressing. The other day, I think this was just yesterday, I saw a tweet from the handle of the Nigerian army describing terrorists in Mangu local government as irate youth. Irate, quote and unquote, youth. These are people from whom they recovered machine guns. They took pot shots at officers of the Air Force. This was also contained in the tweet. And instead of properly calling them what they had, you're calling them irate youth. These are part of the spiral of idiocy. Security has collapsed completely. On Lagos-Ibadan Expressway now, you can't travel free of the fear of kidnap. But we are describing terrorists as irate youth. If that is not enough, they will give us better idea to be discussing. Was she alone? Is she the only one who has done this? Who and who were party to it? Why aren't we talking about that? How come nobody is interested in checking further? So it ends with Edu, right? It ends with that. This is what we are given to discuss. And if we're not discussing that, we'll be talking about our governor, the party boy in Grenada. That is what we're asked to be discussing, instead of the real issues that shows very clearly that real income in the country has diminished to the point where everybody is almost entering multidimensional poverty, except you're a member of the reigning class who have no need to worry about money, because money is coming right out of their hairs. If they are not printing it, they are grabbing it, they are snatching it. But that does not concern them. What concerns them? What concerns them? All that concerns them is to rinse and repeat the cycles of absurdity. But what's the purpose? It's to shape narratives. It's to take your mind away from the realities of the destruction of the country. It's to help you forget that they actually increased the cost of energy without bothering with the niceties of explaining to anybody. They know that those who would ordinarily make noise are in their pockets. You didn't hear a murmur from organized labor. That was the channel through which these murmurs were usually placed in the public space. But since they didn't slap Ajero, there is no need to talk about the fact that electricity cost has practically become out of reach. The average member of the middle class is careful about what he turns on and what and when, because electricity cost is through the roof. And that is assuming that NEPA offers you any relief, because if it doesn't, you're going to have to burn some diesel or petrol. You might as well be feeding Naira into the fire, given the way it's declining in value on a daily basis. So they need you to take your mind off all of these, since they have focused your mind on existential issues, hunger, poverty, pains of all types, institutionally inflicted. These are the purposes. They need to keep the victims occupied. They need you to be focused on other things except the issues. They need you to focus on those things. They are not, it's not enough for them that they are afflicting you. They need you to focus on what takes your mind off the issue so that you will not ask the questions. And if you look at each and every one of these things, you ask yourself, those who are appropriating the name of regions or of ethnicities, of ethnic nationalities in pursuit of their own narrow agenda, whether it is those who want to paint the lie that they are moving something to Lagos as some kind of victory for their Jagaban or Jaguda, I don't understand how that works, because the man who painted Obasanjo as a dictatorial evil man, not an undeserved toga, but specifically on the subject of his resistance, quote and unquote, to allowing the 37 LCDAs to become local government, is today sat in the presidency. Oh, I forget, he's on holiday. A private visit to France. Our president, quote and unquote, has become a francophone jet setter now. Anyway, the one ensconced in Aso Rock is the same one who manufactured the 37 LCDAs. When is he going to turn them into local governments? Oh, and yes, the same man who was suing the federal government in relation to his 37 LCDAs, would he be signing the bill that seeks to centralize and take control of local government away from federating units to the federal government? How do you explain the fact that in the First Republic, between 1960, no, let me go back, between 1951 and 1966, local governments are creations of regions who create them essentially as centers of administration and points from which to take development to their people. How do we explain the fact that it was after the coup that this local government creation became the job of the military, federal military government, which then proceeded to create local government on the basis of land mass? Before the 1966 coup, the Western region had more local governments than the whole of Northern Nigeria, if not the whole of Nigeria combined. I can speak with exactitude to the fact that it had more local governments, probably double the number of local governments in the northern region. Why? Because it was up to each region to create as many local governments as it cared to create, because local governments are creations of the federating unit. So is Jaguda now going to sign off on this eminently on federal legislation?